Hi everyone, my name is Elder and today I'm going to be doing another video on my privacy series. Um, this video is going to be focused on the Ecomms project. I already have an introduction video on the channel. I did record a little while ago, but now I'm going to get back on it. So today I actually want to talk, before we even go into the project and start coding, start setting up our environment, I want to talk about some prerequisites that you need before going into it, because there is some investment you have to do. Well, it's not too much, it's just a little bit. Actually, it can depend um, of how much you want to spend, really, be honest. Um, and at the end of this video, actually, I'm going to show you a table of what I think it's the recommended setup and what I think and what is the cheapest one. And my opinion is that you should start with the cheapest one, and then you see if it's worth it to upgrade to the recommended one, and then you can make your choice. And then you can make that choice for you. But yeah, let's talk about what it's really needing to start coding and making this project. I'm assuming that you already saw the introduction video, or at least a little bit, or a resume, because this is you need to know some concepts like the server and the commander agent and the other agents to understand this. But basically, what you're gonna need is that you're gonna need a Raspberry Pi, obviously, since that the commander is gonna run on that. So I'm gonna call Raspberry Pi. I use the 0W. This one is not writing. The 0W. Why is this? Because it has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it's the cheapest one. You're gonna need both of these things to work with Ecomms, and it's also the cheapest one. Okay, so that's the first thing. And our commander agent is gonna run on this device. You're gonna need Wi-Fi because you're gonna need to give some kind of internet connectivity to the Pi, and gonna use the Wi-Fi chip to connect to a Wi-Fi network. We're gonna need Bluetooth because you're gonna need to connect our earbuds, so we can actually hear the feedback of the system. And it is the cheapest one, Raspberry Pi, that you can buy. It works for the commander, so why not? Another thing that we're gonna need, and I already talked about this, is about we need to give some kind of internet connectivity to the Pi. So there is a few options here that I'm gonna list. You can have an hotspot, okay, and then that will broadcast the Wi-Fi network, and then you can connect the Wi-Fi on the Raspberry Pi to the hotspot. That's one solution. Another thing that you can have, it's basically having the hotspot, so you can use the phone hotspot also. Or if you want to be more private, you want to actually use USB tethering. Okay, so you will share the internet connection of your phone or laptop, doesn't matter, using a USB cable. So it needs to have some kind of internet connectivity. That's the goal here, right? So internet connectivity, access, whatever. Another prerequisite that we're gonna need on this project, you're gonna need a server, because we're gonna code a server, and we need to host somewhere. Now this server will be exposed to the internet, so you have to do a decision here, because if you want to host a server, there's a plenty of providers where you can do that. So the server, you could actually have a VPS renting somewhere else. You can also have a VM in your home, or just say the parts that you don't use on your home, and you can use that as a server, so a home machine. But you will need to set up port forward on the router for that. Or in my case that I have a home lab, it's actually easier because I can just spin up a virtual machine on my home lab. So I'm gonna use that. Okay, but I'm gonna basically show you how you can do both, all of those three options then later. So this is for the server. This is for internet. Another thing that we're gonna need for Ecomms is we're gonna need some kind of power source to power our Pi. Remember that the Pi is a command agent, so it's always with us. We need to carry it around with us. Now it really depends how we want to power it. Like in my case, almost all of the time I'm with my bag, so it's really easy. I just put it inside of my bag and I can power it by connecting to my laptop through a USB port. That's an option. So I'm gonna make some power source or options here. You have a power bank option, which is more expensive, of course, or if you already have one, that will be the cheapest in that case. You can power it through your laptop if you are almost always with it. You can power it also through your phone, which is also a viable option, okay? So you can connect your phone and actually power it through your phone, which is a little bit uncomfortable, I would say, because you would have to be always with a wire connected to your phone. But there is an option, and these two actually they have some advantage. I'm gonna talk in a moment if you do one of those two. So you have a power bank, laptop, phone, or if you want to go with more the more expensive route, you can use an actual battery. So you can actually buy a battery for the Raspberry Pi, a voltage regulator, and you can actually use the Pi with a battery, and there it will power itself. Although these batteries normally that they sell for the Pi, they are pretty small, they don't last enough. Because remember, Ecomms is gonna be kind of a heavy energy project, because it's gonna use Wi-Fi, it's gonna use Bluetooth, and it's gonna send traffic all over pretty much every single second. So yeah, make sure you have a good power bank, battery if you go with that option, or just use your laptop or your phone through a cable, which I think is the best option here. Now, why I said that those options are a little bit, they have a advantage. The reason is because if you power from your laptop and your phone, you can actually do two in once. What I mean, so the Pi will need Ethernet connectivity also. So if you power from your laptop or your phone, you can actually enable this thing, USB tethering. And I don't know if this is applicable to all phones. I don't know that, but with the devices that I have, when I enable this, it does the two things. It basically shares the internet connection to the Pi, so the Pi sees the USB as a network interface, and also powers the Pi, so you don't need to power the Pi. Now, obviously, this is gonna draw more battery from your phone or laptop, but again, it's something worth thinking. Like my phone, it's a de-googled one, so the battery lasts like a little bit longer than a normal phone. For me, this is not a problem. But you also have the laptop, so in my case, I can choose one of those options you can use. So this is basically to a power source requisite, right? So far we are talking about some prerequisites. We need a Raspberry Pi, obviously, to run the commander on it. Actually, it will run in any Linux board, but it's just the cheapest one that can run a Linux OS. Then we need an hotspot, some kind of internet, some kind of device that can give internet connectivity to the Pi. Then we're gonna need a server to run the Ecomms server, and that can be a VPS that you rent online, or it could be a home machine that you have, an old machine that you want to act as a server, just plug into your router, although I don't recommend that, because that machine will be exposed, so you should have a VLAN just for that. or a DMZ, something like that, or a home lab. In my case, it's easier because I can really easily create a VLAN and just spin up a virtual machine there. Both of these cases, you will have to set up port forward, of course. Then we need some kind of power source to power the Pi. You can have a power bank. If you use a laptop or a phone, you can do both. You can power and share the internet connectivity from those devices to the Pi. Or you can just set up a battery on the Raspberry Pi that will need to buy extra accessories, and it's going to be way more expensive in that way. So you can choose whatever you want to basically use. Of course, you're going to need also some earbuds that are going to be connected via Bluetooth to the Pi. So when we issue a command, we can hear some feedback. Now, some things that this buds will need. Okay, so let's continue. The buds will need Bluetooth, obviously, so you can connect it. Also, they have to have an internal microphone, so a mic. Now, how do you know that they have a mic? Well, normally those buds, when they have a mic, basically on the box, they would say like they have call support. Because what happens is that normally there is two profiles on the buds. One that gives you a lot of quality, and that's used for listening to media, when you are listening to music or watching video, something like that. And another profile that is really bad quality, the audio, but basically it's a duplex channel, so you can actually you can hear something, but you can also record something at the same time. And that's exactly what we are going to be playing when coding that script. Also, these buds need to have the play and pause function. So that's basically, when you double tap or tap on the buds, and they basically allow you to pause the music and to resume and to play it again. Yeah, and to resume it. So make sure it has that function. Normally it's by tapping once or tapping twice on the earbud. Now, what we are going to do with this function is basically, instead of playing and pausing the music, we are going to basically instead execute a bash script that we are going to create to basically switch between those profiles. So when you double tap, it starts recording, and then you can issue your command. And then after that, after 5 seconds or some timeout that you want to put it, it's up to you then. It just switches back to the normal audio profile, which has more quality. So make sure it has those properties, these buds. What I use, it's the Redmi Buds 6 Active. They are really cheap and they work perfectly well. So that's an option. That's what I recommend. They are the cheapest ones. So you need some earbuds here that support Bluetooth, obviously. Now, also one thing that I want to talk about here is that you can also, if you already have some buds, you don't need to buy another one. Just use those. In that way, it's gonna be more cheapest actually. So if you already have one, just use them basically. Obviously, we are going to need an SD card, right? So we can write the operating system to the Raspberry Pi. In this case, it's going to be to the commander agent, right? Now, what are we going to be using as an operating system to the commander agent? Well, we could build a really minimal Linux, although I think to make things more easier and actually faster, we're gonna just use the Raspberry Pi, OS, of course, headlessly with no GUI, and also we're gonna use the legacy version because it's a little bit more faster, has better performance. Don't worry, the legacy version at this moment is Debian Bookworm, which is currently supported. So don't worry about that. So that's an SD card. And finally, we are going to be needing two things. one of those, you need a host obviously to program all of the code and basically then transfer it to the Pi and the server. But I'm not gonna put that because that's really obvious. And the other thing that we're gonna need is a speech-to-text server. Now, speech-to-text server, it's a server that basically takes your speech. So we are going to record our command, send to that server, and the server will convert that audio command into text. Because when writing our Java code, server and application, is not gonna have voice recognition in there. We're gonna use an external server for that. Our Java code is just gonna look into the file, into that text file, and basically see what command is there. If that command is on a list, a dictionary that we're gonna create then later, it's gonna, it's gonna have its own ID and it's going to execute that command on the server. So that's how it's gonna work. So it's not doing any kind of voice processing. We're gonna need a server to do that for us. And the one that I actually use is the Google one. So I actually have gone to GCP. I created a project, and the only thing that I use there is just the speech-to-text server or API, if you will. So we're gonna need one of those. STT speech to text server. It's not a server, you need the API actually. Now this thing I use on GCP, Google Cloud Platform. Now there's a few things I want to talk about. When you create an account on here, you're gonna have like a free credit for 3 months, so that you can use. So the first 3 months are completely free, and then you pay for what you use. So if you use a lot speech to text, you're gonna pay more. If you use less, you're gonna pay less. In reality, I can't really tell you how much it is in media because I'm still on that period. But now I'm gonna create a new account and then I will basically have to start. So once we go there, we're gonna have an idea, but it's really cheap. Don't worry about it. It's like really cheap. Now, one thing I want to tell about you, one thing also that you can do is that if you don't want to host your server on home or on your home lab, you want to use an external VPS, you can actually do everything in GCP, because we have to use GCP for speech to text anyways. Of course, you can use whatever you want on Microsoft Azure or AWS, whatever. I'm gonna use GCP in this case. But if you want to put everything in one place, you can actually use speech to text and a virtual machine as a server in here. So you would have to activate the computing services on GCP and then actually use it there. I can show you how you can do that also, okay? That's not a problem. But me personally, I'm gonna use a virtual machine on my home, okay? I just wanted to draw a little schema so you have an idea how it's gonna work, but you should already have that idea if you watched the first video. But anyways, so we're gonna have our Raspberry Pi here, let's say. And well, it has a Bluetooth card, a Wi-Fi card, right? And the Wi-Fi will be connected basically to the internet. Okay, like that. Then we're gonna have a Bluetooth. Okay, so it has Wi-Fi connected to the internet. I'm gonna have a Bluetooth. We're gonna use it to connect to our buds. And our buds is gonna be basically the device that we're gonna use to basically input some data into the program and basically to hear the feedback. So it's gonna be an input and output. In this case, it's gonna be in the audio format, obviously. Also, we need to power the Pi, so we're gonna need some kind of external power source. To power it, the Pi. And then we're gonna need a VPS or a server on your home, whatever. Can be the cheapest one, doesn't matter. It's more than enough, like 1 gig, it's more than enough. 2 CPUs is more than enough. You don't need a lot of space also. So VPS, and what we're gonna do with that VPS is we're gonna use that VPS. We're gonna turn it also into a VPN server. Why is this? Because we are doing a Java server, Ecomms server, right? And of course, well, I know the basics of programming. And also, and if that server is exposed to anyone on the internet, will be very dangerous. Like attackers could try to exploit the server and gain access to the actual VPS, or even worse, if it is at your home, to gain access to the network where it is. So what I like to do is I like to take this server, turn it also into a VPN server, and our Java server, so the Ecomms server, will be running, will be listening only from connections that come from the VPN server. So we're gonna bind the socket to the VPN subnets. So inside of the VPN server, we're gonna run the Ecomms server, basically. So what this means is that only people inside of the VPN subnet can actually see the server. So with what that means is that every single agent that connects to the server will also have to be on the VPN server. So we need to set it up multiple VPN profiles and distribute them to each agent that we want to connect to the system. Okay. So it's going to be listening on an IP, something like that. Okay. So 10.8.0.1/24 is going to be the subnet mask. So make sure if you have a lot of agents, you might have to change the subnet mask, but then we are going to talk about that later. And that's it. That's basically the cloud. Now, once the Pi has internet access, it's gonna basically connect to our VPS, okay, as that. And that connection, not to the VPS, sorry, to the Ecomms server, actually. Sorry about that, not to the VPS, to the Ecomms server. Now, also really importantly, like I said, this connection, it's completely encapsulated in a VPN tunnel, okay? Including the server. Everything here, it's inside of a VPN tunnel. So the cheapest, well, the cheapest would be basically for the server side of things. So for the server, the cheapest option here would be basically to have a home machine if you have an old one, or a virtual machine, okay? So I will be, for the server, having a home or VM in your home, and then we will need to set up port forward, obviously. Now the cheapest option here, basically for the Raspberry Pi Zero, is the cheapest one. If you already have one board, it's like free. But if you don't have, this is the cheapest option, the W0. Now for the internet connectivity, the cheapest option here would be to use phone hotspot or USB tethering, right? Because you don't want to buy an hotspot, that's more expensive. So if you can, like if you have mobile there, which you should have, you just create you just activate your hotspot there and you connect the Pi to it. So the phone hotspot. Now the cheapest option right after that of the power source terms is gonna be basically the laptop or the phone. You power the Pi from one of those two. If you already have a power bank, you can use a power bank. But if you don't have a power bank, neither a battery, you're gonna use one of those because that's free, basically. Just use your laptop or your phone. For the buds, I use the Redmi Buds 6 Active for the cheapest ones. Like they are less than $20, so I think it's one of the cheapest one that has that connects via Bluetooth. It's compatible with a Pi. It has a microphone and it has a play and pause function. Now SD card is really cheap. You probably already have one laying around, or they are really cheap at the stores. And the speech to text server, basically the free option that you can have is basically having, if you have like a lot of processing power at your home, you can actually download a LLM and then run your own LLM. But yeah, that's not my case. Rarely is the case. So the cheapest option there is no really other option than just to use a paid service like the speech to text Google API. Okay. I'm gonna put it here. Now, in terms of the server, the recommended is gonna be obviously a VPS, because if your server gets compromised, at least is in the cloud of someone. It's not on your home network or VLAN, whatever. So a VPS would be recommended. Actually, because we are using GCP, I actually will recommend using GCP. So your billing, it's just one billing in one place. Now, for the power source, the most recommended for me, what I most recommend is basically a power bank or a battery. So it doesn't really matter, power bank. Actually, it's a power bank, because the batteries for the Pi normally they don't last long enough, and this will draw a lot of energy, like I said before. So the power bank is recommended for in this case. That's what I recommend for the power source. For the buds, really personal preference. Like, these are the cheapest, one of the cheapest at least, and they work perfectly fine from my tests. So really use whatever you want to use there. SD card and speech to text server is also optional. So I'm gonna just say this is gonna be basically the same. Okay. So basically that's what I recommend, and that's basically what is the cheapest there. Really, my recommendation, seriously, start with the cheapest stuff. Try to do everything in the testing phases. After you have the project up and running, you're gonna see if you like it, if you want to continue to use it. If yes, and if you need more resources, then you would recommend then I would recommend upgrading to something like that, because over the time using always a cable connected to the phone can be a little bit uh, uncomfortable. Also having the phone hotspot is not too bad, but will draw more battery from the phone. So you might want to have a physical hotspot that basically lasts you a day without worrying about the phone battery. I don't know. And then for the server, I will recommend the VPS, because, well, it's on another cloud, basically. It's in another network. You don't have to worry too much about your network. And I say too much because if your server gets compromised, it's still running a VPN server. So theoretically, if they compromise your server, even though it's on the cloud, because your agents are connected inside of the VPN, the guy can actually access your agents through the VPN, because your agents are on the VPN. So they have direct access. Well, not direct access, but they can ping it, and they can see, they can basically nmap your devices if your VPS gets compromised. But at least it's way more safer than having it on your phone. I also wanted to talk about, so I have here a Raspberry Pi, as you can see, right here, okay? This Raspberry Pi has the GPIO headers. You don't need it for this project. And as you can see, it's really small, it's really compact, so it's really cool that you have this actually. Basically, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. And on the next video, we are actually gonna, and on the next video, we are actually going to start putting our hands on and setting up our environment to be able to start Ecomms project. So stay safe, and thank you for watching.